20. January 1947. Munich, Lindwurmstrasse. In a school exercise book with a blue marbled cover, a German civilian wrote a line that could not be spoken aloud. I sold Germany everything twice. It is a dangerous sentence. It is a thesis. It is the arithmetic of his next 3 decades. He signs his name Karl without a surname. He does not write where the cigarettes came from, or the coffee, or the leather soles for the shoes that shoeless men carried home. He does not write how he learned the mathematics of hunger. He does not write that he first learned it scavenging coal from a derailed wagon in the first winter after the war. He writes only the sentence, then leaves a page blank. Munich at the time is rubble and improvisation. The postcards are honest, mountains of brick, sagging facades like pulled teeth, women in scarves with calloused hands stacking the broken city into neat cubes for use later. Trümmerfrauen, the newspapers call them. They work because there are not enough men. The missing are a nation. The city files list names, blocks, last known addresses. The field post numbers run out. The Bundesarchiv will later classify the dead and missing by district and regiment, but in 1947 the arithmetic is simple. An empty place at the table is either a tomb or a rumor. American occupation reports note limited restoration of services, curfew strictly enforced, and continued illegal bartering in the vicinity of major rail hubs. In the same report, the calories are calculated like ammunition. In the winter of 1946-47, the hunger winter, a civilian in Munich might receive 1,100 calories per day on paper, less in the pan. The heavy worker ration is a fiction nobody believes. The mathematics of salvation is precise. 2 eggs, 6 cigarettes, 1 kilogram of potatoes, 2 cigarettes, 1 kilogram of butter, 50 cigarettes. Lucky Strike are more valuable than Chesterfield. American brands are gold. German cigarettes crumble and go out. Karl learns this mathematics in back courtyards and behind the shattered colonnades around the Hauptbahnhof. He learns it at dawn, when farmers from the countryside arrive with burlap sacks, and men and women with hollow eyes and city shoes offer watches, cutlery, and the last wedding ring from a family with no weddings. He learns it in the ruins of a department store on Sonnenstraße, where a boy has set up a table, a plank balanced on 2 oil drums, over which he doles out portions of saccharine and ersatz coffee to a queue that does not speak. Allied intelligence summaries describe it clinically: continuing prevalence of barter economy. Cigarettes function as de facto currency. Military government maintaining prosecutions for theft of American supplies. Widespread connivance of German intermediaries suspected. The reports use words like leakage. The word on the street is simpler. Ameware. PX goods. Soap with real lather. Coffee with real aroma. The packages move in duffel bags and bread baskets. A waiter's pocket. A chaplain's crate. A soldier's trunk. The guilt moves in whispers. Karl does not start as a king. He starts as a thin man with quick hands and a sympathy for numbers. He has a name common in Bavaria and a face nobody remembers. In a notebook he lists quantities: 14 eggs, 1 ham, 4 dozen cigarettes spent, 18 obtained. He draws arrows between columns. He writes Zug L6 5 Fien Freising and S Bahnhof Isator and Tierpark, goat's cheese. He writes a single phrase 3 times after the winter storm of 3 February 1947 collapses 3 ceilings in his district. We will sell the city back to itself. The Allies enter Munich on 30 April 1945. The day is recorded in diaries and in the formal style of the occupation powers. The fighting is over by the time the tanks roll into the city proper. Occupation accomplished without major incident, the situation reports say. There is a curfew from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. The police are disbanded, then reconstituted. Officers carry British batons and American requisition slips. People hide Nazi armbands under floorboards. People hide extra potatoes behind the stove. An elderly woman named Liesel writes in her diary, now in a regional archive in Oberschleißheim, "We are told to report all weapons and National Socialist insignia. I brought a brooch with an eagle and swastika to the house cellar and wrapped it in cloth." Her entry for 7 May 1945 notes a rumor that the war in Europe is over. Her entry for 9 May records that her neighbor's son returned from a camp, a skeleton, and that he covered his face when they tried to welcome him. Her entry for 10 May is one sentence: "I boiled wallpaper glue." The mathematics of food is relentless. The apparatus for measurement is precise. A ration card is a grid of squares, a bureaucratic promise of bread. The card is the state's last functioning machine. The baker's knife takes that promise and cuts it into smaller promises, each a little thinner than the last. There are slogans in the papers about endurance. There are also instructions on how to keep rats out of the potato bins. In the rubble, another institution begins to work: denazification. Its forms are more complicated than the ration card. The Fragebogen, the questionnaire, is a logic trap and a negotiating table. It asks 131 questions. The categories are crisp: Hauptschuldige, major offenders; Bella State offenders; Minder Bella State, lesser offenders; Mitlaufer, followers; followers; Entler State, exonerated. The formal names are legal. German, the words people use in beer cellars. If there is beer, are simpler: chiefs, heavy ones, little ones, tagalongs, clean ones. The Sprüchkammer, the tribunal, is a phenomenon as German as it is allied, a court with lay judges drawn from the community, hearing cases by the tens of thousands. Karl sits for his denazification hearing in a room that used to be a school assembly hall on 12 September 1947. The record, if it survives, is a form with boxes ticked and a few lines in cursive about his past. The file might be in the Bavarian Main State Archive among the miles of paper. He is charged with nothing except existing in a country where existence had been defined by membership. He has been in the German Labour Front because everyone was. He has never been in the party, he says. He was in the National Socialist Motor Corps for 2 months in 1943 to get petrol for his delivery bicycle. He has witnesses. He has a priest's letter and a neighbour's affidavit of political reliability, what is called a Persilschein, a Persil certificate, after the washing powder. He is a quiet man, the priest writes. He minded his work. A woman who remembers his mother says he minded his mother says he never spoke ill of the Jews. This is a sentence that could not be spoken before 1945. Now it is a ritual defined by Allied law and local conscience. The Sprüchkammer hears hundreds of cases that week. The mathematics of guilt becomes pragmatic. There are too many files and too few judges. The bureaucracy needs a functioning city more than it needs all the facts. An Allied officer writes in a summary, "Due to the requirements of administration and the dearth of qualified personnel, many Mitläufer are being reinstated. In the files, the declarative phrases multiply. No evidence of active participation. Joined under pressure. Merely followed orders." In the oral histories collected by the Institute für Zeitgeschichte decades later, these phrases are repeated with the same cadence. They are true and not true simultaneously. They tell the truth a community can bear. Karl's judgment is Mitläufer. He is permitted to work. He is required to attend a lecture on democracy. A functionary writes 20 RM Reichsmark penalty on a line where penalties are a menu. It is a joke by the time he reads it. The Reichsmark is a currency in name only. The Reichsmark is a currency in name only. The real currency fits in a cigarette case. The black market is not a market. It is a set of moving points that form a map if you squint. In summer 1947, near the ruins of the Munich Zoo, a trade route is drawn in chalk on the city's bare pavement. Farmers arrive in wagons. American soldiers wander in after their shift, looking to trade cigarettes for watches and leather coats to mail home. Displaced persons from the nearby camps sell what they can strip from the ruins of former factories: copper wire, bolts, machine parts. Germans with manners that once kept them from buying onions from strangers learn to be direct. How many? They ask. How fresh? American occupation reports contain 2 columns: offenses recorded, prosecutions completed. One is larger than the other. Cigarettes disappear from the PX. The MPs interrupt a deal with theatrical righteousness. A sergeant makes an exception for a man with 3 children. A German policeman looks the other way for a packet or 2. A quartermaster's aide, later interviewed for an oral history, shrugs and says, "We were boys. We had warehouses." In the hunger winter of 1946–47, the temperature drops. Coal is scarce. Trains sit on the tracks in snowdrifts. People chip fuel from briquettes and steal splinters from railway ties. There is a word for coal theft, coaling plough, that the old propaganda had used in cartoons. Now it is a way to live another day. The calorie arithmetic is reprinted in the newspapers with a warning: do not engage in unauthorized barter. A mother writes to her sister in the countryside, "We are freezing." The child is coughing. If you have any fat at all, send it quickly. Carl uses the snow to move goods. The sleigh he borrows from a neighbor is a child's toy and a freight vehicle. He slides over ice with sacks that whisper when you touch them. He trades tobacco for a butcher's favor, coffee for a shoemaker's time, soap for 2 loaves of bread, and a promise to keep the sidewalk in front of a certain address clear of snow. His notebook becomes a map with names like Schuster, Gärtnerplatz, and Frau R., 4th-floor widow, and Mika, camp near Feldafing. He writes Lucky, 50, and Camel, 40, and German Bad, 20. He writes Mika, don't cheat. It is a sentence that could not be spoken in public then. It is a sentence that could not be spoken in public then. It is a private law. Feldafing, 30 kilometers southwest of Munich, is a displaced persons camp established by the Americans in the former Reichsschule at the end of 1945. The reports from the camp, held in the YIVO archives and the Bundesarchiv, describe an ecosystem: Jewish survivors organizing schools and a theater, a clinic with too few antibiotics, a football team that plays on a field scraped flat from the park. There are workshops that repair shoes, restore typewriters, make new garments from old cloth. Germans in the surrounding villages see a fence and a guard tower and remember the wrong kind of camp. It is the right kind now. It cannot undo the wrong. An Allied intelligence note from June 1946, DP Commerce intersects with German black market at several nodes: cigarettes, textiles, rare foods, tensions reported with local population, occasional confrontations. In an oral testimony collected in the 1990s, a former Feldafing resident named Mia recalls, "We traded. We had to. The Germans had empty bellies. We had the dead behind us and wanted to live. If we could get shoes from a German who had 2 pairs, we did." He pauses, then adds, "A German man who came to buy leather from us in 1946 told me his wife had starved in the winter. He held the leather like a baby." Carl's ledger includes 10 entries marked M. In one, he writes, "M sold me 12 pairs, 60 cigarette. Price, 5 each." The numbers are cold, they are honest. They look like an answer to a question nobody asks him. When the Allies show films of the liberated camps in German cinemas in the summer of 1945 and 1946, they do so with the force of law. The newsreels with piles of bodies are accompanied by text, "These crimes were done in your name." The audience shifts in their seats. Some walk out. A Bundesarchiv clip shows a man with his arms crossed, jaw clenched. Another shows a woman covering her eyes with a handkerchief while her friend squeezes her elbow until the skin blanches. A municipal report from Munich notes widespread expressions of shock and disbelief and continued claims of ignorance. The mathematics of guilt is early in its long solution. After the winter, a spring. In 1947, the Americans and British tie their occupation zones together economically. The B Zone. A new office with a new name hands out old paper. The Marshall Plan begins on paper, then in ships. In 1948, sacks of wheat arrive at Bremerhaven and travel by rail to the south. Drums of machine oil and crates of heavy equipment move down rivers. A young economist named Ludwig Erhard writes elegant memoranda about prices that make sense to a people whose trades are done by feel and hand. The arithmetic of policy and the arithmetic of hunger meet in an argument over numbers on. Karl reads none of the memoranda. He listens in beer halls where the beer tastes of sawdust. He hears that something is coming. He stores what he can in a cellar that still smells of smoke from an air raid in 1944. Soap is safe to store. Coffee is safe. Shoes are good. Cigarettes are best. He does not hoard bread. Bread is not hoard bread. Bread is not a number that holds its shape. On 20 June 1948, West Germans wake up to cues and rumors. The currency is changing. The newspapers have taut lines. A currency reform. Stability. A new day. At distribution points, people receive 40 Deutschemark each in 2 allocations of 20. Later, more to come. The 10 RM notes that once meant nothing are replaced by something that could move the world. Shop windows that were empty for years suddenly fill with goods. The papers will later call it the legend of the shop windows. In reality, it is partial, uneven. But the sensation of seeing goods and thinking they can be bought is powerful. It is a new arithmetic. The cigarettes still circulate, but the balance shifts. Karl has cigarettes and soap and coffee and shoes. He turns to what the city now requires, receipts. He applies for a license, a Gewerbeschein, at the office on Rupertstrasse. The clerk is bored and efficient. The license is stamped with a newly recarved seal. He registers as a wholesaler of household goods and work clothes. It is a legal description, honest enough to pass. The origin of the initial stock is not asked and is not volunteered. The city needs people who can move things. He knows how to move things. He opens a shop front that says K. Mayer and Son, though there is no son. The name is generic by design. In his ledger he writes, "This is my second stall." The first sale with a proper receipt is to a Trümmerfrau who has been hired by a construction firm. She buys gloves. He sells them at a price that is printed twice, once in his ledger, once on a tax form. He writes down the number twice. He feels an unfamiliar sensation, knowing the state knows a number because he told it the number. He is relieved. He is frightened. The American military government becomes the American High Commissioner, then an ally. The Cold War moves the air around everyone's ears. The Berlin airlift begins in June 1948. In Munich, people watch the news and learn words: blockade, air corridor, tonnage. The arithmetic that had measured calories now measures cargo. Into the DP's ears, new words: Israel, Aliyah, 1948. Boats leave. The camp empties slowly. Some go to Palestine, and then Israel, some to the United States, some to Canada, Australia. A few stay. A few marry locals. The city learns to be polite to them. Politeness is a strategy. The displaced change and are replaced. Now the trains bring Germans. Between 1945 and 1950, 12 to 14 million ethnic Germans are expelled or flee from the east, from Silesia, East Prussia, the Sudetenland. They arrive with bundles and heavy eyes. They arrive with grandmothers who no longer have a village to die in. The station platforms become dormitories with fence rails. Emergency housing, Notstandsquartier, sprout in school gymnasiums and barns. The municipal ledgers add new columns, beds, blankets, liters of milk. The arithmetic of rooms becomes brutal. In a city of ruins, a single intact apartment can be divided like a loaf. A room that once held a piano now hosts a family of 5. A stairwell becomes a border. Tensions rise. Locals call the new arrivals names that are old and petty: Die Schlesier, Die Burma, Pfennigfuchser. Newcomers call locals names that are old and large: Nazis. One party stresses its suffering. The other stresses its permanent strangeness. Fists fly in beer cellars. A local gives a woman from East Prussia directions in a tone that makes her blush and leaves him ashamed but not enough to apologize. A police report mentions strong verbal altercations over laundry lines. The equalization of burdens, law of 1952, the Lastenausgleich, is a policy, a promise, and a source of resentment. Those who had houses pay those who had their houses burned behind them. The mathematics is never perfect. There are receipts. There is envy. Both are real. Karl hires a man from Silesia to deliver goods. The man knows how to drive a horse. He does not know how to drive a truck. He learns. His surname includes a KED-ES and a Y that make locals squint. He lifts crates. He drinks 2 beers and falls asleep in a chair, not a bed, because beds are for the people who rent them by the night in the kitchen. In his first month, he breaks his hand on a crate. He is back at work within 2 weeks because the arithmetic of food is not finished. Denazification drags on and then is declared finished. The Spruchkammern, overwhelmed and inefficient and insulting to both the victims of the regime and many of the accused, are shut down in 1949, and many of the accused are shut down in 1949 and 1950. A series of amnesty laws soak white a large swath of the grey. By 1951, many civil servants and judges and police officers return to posts or are confirmed in them. The 131er Law of May 1951, the law for the regulation of the legal position of persons, falling under Article 31 of the Basic Law, restores former officials to pension-earning positions. In plain language, the state needs administrators more than it needs to exclude men who have experience. The mathematics of guilt tolerates fractions. The new democracy is built on old desks. A man who had signed dismissal notices for Jewish doctors in 1938 becomes head of a hospital accounting department in 1951. He does his sums. He retires with a pension. A former SA man who was a small-town bully in 1934 becomes a petty bureaucrat in the tax office, approving and rejecting receipts with a vigor that feels like conscience. A judge who sentenced listening to foreign radio becomes a judge again. A few of these cases end with the justice of luck, a newspaper story, an activist's persistence, a court hearing, a sentence. People go to prison. Many more go back to work. This is not exoneration. It is arithmetic. Karl's clients are factory foremen, shop owners, and construction site paymasters. The goods he moves change with the city's needs. In 1949, it is gloves and work boots. In 1951, it is shovels and paint and screws. In 1953, it is prefabricated. He learns the words for the modern kitchen before many Germans have seen one. He reads a pamphlet written by an American home economist about workflow. He smiles at its confidence and underlines the word Hygiene. He is not sentimental about the past. He does not romanticize rubble. He also never forgets that the capital for his first new truck came from selling an American case of coffee he had bought for cigarettes